Maybe a lot of this has to do with the reduction by the House and Senate Republicans, who have the majority, and I'm speaking about the reduction in unemployment benefits. You only get, what is it, 20, 22 weeks? Okay, once that comes and goes, you're shit out of luck. You better hope you have found a job by then. Okay? Because now you're either in the system, the welfare system, food stamps, SNAP program, whatever. Alright? But you're no longer on unemployment because you get 20 some weeks. And I'm not even sure about extensions anymore or anything like that, so it is what it is, and people are falling off of that. Okay? One of the things that Bernie talks a lot about is that the actual, or I'm not going to say the actual, but the approximate number of African American youth that is unemployed is over 50%. 50%. Okay? 50% of African American people are looking for work, or for young people. Okay, I mean that number is disturbing. It is disturbing. It really is. It really is, and it kind of shows what kind of country we're living in right now. But that's hey, that's in a future broadcast. Okay, we'll talk about that after a while. But creating decent paying jobs, that is a huge concern for Bernie. Some of the things he wants to do, he wants to introduce legislation which would invest $1 trillion over 5 years to modernize the country's physical infrastructure. Okay, and according to his numbers, that'll create and maintain about 13 million good jobs. Okay. Where are we going to get the money to pay for that? Well, there's 13 million good jobs worth of income tax that would come in and help pay for that. Okay, so that's one way. But then you also adjust the tax rates, eliminate some IRS loopholes, that type of thing, and voila, we've got our money to pay for these jobs programs. Okay, he's opposing the and what you may have heard about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, and free trade agreements with these other countries. Okay, why is it that China charges us, what is it, 25% to import, a 25% tariff to import our goods into their country, and we charge them a 2.5% tariff? Okay, doesn't make much sense, does it? Well, it makes perfect sense if you are a business owner and you move to China to avoid paying high labor costs and healthcare costs and unemployment costs and workman's comp costs and all that kind of stuff, and you have that money now to lobby Congress to make sure that your import costs are low, right? Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense for the American worker. I mean, these jobs are being shifted overseas. All right, how does that help the American worker? It doesn't. All right, so he also wants to introduce the Employ Young Americans Now Act, is what it's called. He's doing that with Representative John Conyers. And what he's claiming is it would provide $5.5 billion in immediate funding to employ 1 million young Americans between the ages of 16 and 24. And provide them job training, hundreds of thousands of others. It would provide job training to hundreds of thousands of other people also. So, I mean, think about it. Okay, you're an unemployed manager. Okay, now managers, I respect them. I used to be one. It's a difficult job, stressful job sometimes, depending on the situation. But let's face it, they're a dime a dozen. Okay, I'm not saying good managers. I'm saying managers. Okay, you can get anybody to babysit some people, or watch over a process, or control the paperwork for a process or a department or whatever, depending on what type of industry you're in. All right. So let's say you lose your job. What are you going to do? I mean, if there are 100 people out there that can do the same thing that you just did, then maybe you should think about training for a different type of job. Okay. And this is kind of program that Bernie's suggesting that would help people switch over to different career fields, help with job training, and so on and so forth. All right. So, hey, we're off to a good start here. Bernie, you're looking good, buddy. Income and wealth inequality. That's the next little bullet point on his website here. Again, we've talked a lot about this. We've talked about the income levels of the wealthy. We've talked about how the gap has grown over the last 40 years between the wealthy and the poor, or the wealthy and the middle class. The middle class is shrinking. Okay. You know, there's a lot of numbers on this page, and there's a lot of talk, but the you know the point is that it's an unacceptable gap between the wealthy businesses and the wealthy people in this country that are finding, that have the ability to use these loopholes for their tax purposes and the tax advantages, when the rest of us don't have that ability, and we are stuck in the mud. Okay, we got people that are up on the mountain, and we're down here stuck in the mud, spinning our wheels. All right, and it's been this way for a long time, and it's getting worse. I mean, the mud is getting softer and deeper. Okay, it's quicksand. All right, we're sinking in the quicksand. All right, so Bernie recognizes that and wants to get us out of there. Now, let's stop right there for a second. I mean, you can name any other candidate right now. Martin O'Malley, okay, Hillary Clinton. Let's go on the GOP side. Donald Trump. Ted Cruz, Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, Rick Perry, Bobby Jindal, Carly Fiorina. Any of them. How many of those guys are talking about the declining American middle class? How many of those guys are coming up with jobs program ideas? How many of those people are talking about taxing the ultra wealthy to a more fair level, so that us, the middle class, and the poor are not sharing or are not carrying the brunt of the taxation burden in this country? Okay, there's only one guy that's doing that. That's Bernie Sanders. All right, so to look at some of these things like this and to think that some of these other guys have your back or have your best issue or your most important issues at heart, you're fooling yourself. You really are. You're fooling yourself. All right. One of Bernie's big things that he wants to do is get the money out of politics. Get big money out of politics. All right. Citizens United was signed in what, 2010? Is that what it was? Yep, that's what it says here in 2010. It was a 5-4 decision by the United States Supreme Court. But basically, it opened up a whole can of worms. Okay, it basically, what Citizens United did was it stated in layman's terms that a corporation has a vote. All right. Now, I don't know what democracy you're used to, but that's like saying the ceiling fan in my room has a vote. Okay? Corporations are not people. Corporations are run by people. Okay? But a corporation shouldn't have a say in whether or not my air is pollution free. Okay? Because all that does is create a conflict of interest. Because if I am a business that needs to dispose of toxic waste, then would it be in my best interest to make sure that the regulations from the EPA on pollution prevention and toxic waste removal are a little easier? You bet your damn well, I'll try and keep from the profanity here, but you bet it will. You bet it will. I mean, it would be a lot easier and a lot cheaper if I have a voice as a corporation, or if my corporation has a voice. It would be a lot easier if my corporation has a voice in Congress to help create bills and laws that make it easier and more profitable for me to do business. Okay. Now, if I can throw money upon money upon money at these congressmen and buy their votes, what say do you have as an everyday American citizen who doesn't have this kind of money to do that? You don't have a say. Okay. You got to vote, and you know, your vote counts, and I'll never discourage anyone from voting, but really, I mean, if these guys are being paid for their votes, you know, it's an uphill battle, and Bernie is fighting that. This is one of his key issues. He wants to get the money out of politics. He wants to overturn Citizens United. He wants these congressmen to disclose who's paying them all this money. These are all good things. They're all good things for democracy. They're all good things for us, for our middle class, and they're all good things to help bring the one man, one vote mantra back into the United States, and the way that we elect our officials and govern ourselves. Okay, so getting big money out of politics, that is a huge concern for Bernie. Climate change and the environment. You know, I don't know about you, but global warming to me is not the correct way to describe climate change. We are experiencing climate change. The polar ice caps are melting. There is less ice there than ever before. We've had wild swings in climate, whether it's been hot or cold over the last few years. It's changing. The earth is getting warmer, and that's causing big changes. A lot of that is man-made, is due to man-made things, but with pollution and hurting the ozone layer, all that kind of stuff. Bernie wants to fight that stuff, and try and bring us things like renewable energy, solar, wind power, all the stuff that would help us become more self-sufficient and less dependent on fossil fuels. Okay. Last thing on here is a living wage. I mean, how many of you are earning a less or a more than starvation wage right now? Okay. If you're fortunate enough to, congratulations. I'm happy for you. No one wants to take that away. But what Bernie wants is for everyone to be able to do that. Okay. A lot of the talk has been about increasing the minimum wage. Right now, the statistic, I believe, is that the average age for a fast food worker in the United States is 35 years old. Okay, it's not 15-year-old pimple-faced kids anymore. It's 35-year-old people who lost their accounting job and can't find another one, and they got to support their family somehow. All right, so these people are working full-time, and you can't support your family on $7.50 an hour. All right, it just doesn't happen. Okay, and you know, despite having to try and do that, these people are having to be a burden on the system also, with food stamps and so on and so forth, just to feed their family and keep a roof over their head. Okay, it's not fair. You know, some of this has to do with choices that people make. You know, poor choices in life, but nonetheless, you know, we're a country of people who take care of our own. All right, and it's time that we start acting like, and that's what Bernie Sanders is all about. That's what he wants to do, And